welcome to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan.
I'm James.
And I'm Callum.
And tonight we're talking about Rocketman and Death Stranding. But first, we have some housekeeping to do.
Yeah, so just a couple of things from last week when we talked about the Batman casting news. And I said I wasn't 100% sure if Robert Pattinson had been confirmed, because I think at the time it was just like an announcement and there was no...
There's no official word on it.
Yeah, but since then he's been officially confirmed. So Robert Pattinson is Batman.
Apparently he had to screen test in the Batsuit.
Really?
I read an article on that too.
Yeah,
Both him and the other dude had to screen test in the suit.
I heard that.
I guess it must have looked alright.
Because it's like one thing, even though I said, I like Robert Pattinson, I think he'll do a good job, that's the thing that's the hardest to see.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why they got him to do it.
Yeah, well, but both the frontrunners apparently had to do like a full screen test in like the full get-up.
Yeah. Okay.
Which makes sense.
So I wonder if he did a voice or something.
Yeah. it makes sense that you would have to, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
From a logical
Because,
standpoint.
you don't want to hire someone like, they're a good actor, they'll pull it off, and then put them in the suit and they look like a potato.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently Matt Reeves, the director, a few articles that have come out, about here's the confirmation that Robert Pattinson's is starring. They've been saying for Matt Reeves' trilogy of Batman movies.
Which is somewhat exciting if it stays true to what it was
Exactly.
going to be originally.
So, I mean, in an ideal world where the Tuesday Review made all the decisions, this would be its own self-contained trilogy similar to the Dark Knight trilogy, but whereas Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy was like gritty, realistic, this one is a bit more comic booky, not too much, not all the way, but just a bit more. And of course, like we said, has
some more detective action,
element. So, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, every movie now has to be part of a franchise or part of a trilogy, so I guess it's not surprising that they've already said, there's going to be 3 before this one's even come out yet.
Why would audience be interested in one movie?
I don't think they've even finished the script, so I don't know what they're... I guess it's Batman, so there's like people are going to watch it anyway.
And they're right.
Yeah, that's true. And also when we were talking about last week, and I had my list of actors I thought would be good as Batman, I forgot to add Jim Caviezel, who I think I've talked about on the show before. I think it would be a good Batman. But I forgot to add him in that episode.
It's pointless now.
It's pointless now, but,
Maybe next time. Maybe next reboot.
Well, he's getting up there in years, so... I mean, he played Jesus, so I thought the next logical step is that he plays Batman.
Jesus, Batman.
Yeah. It's the same thing. Yeah, I mean, also, did you guys watch Good Omens?
No, I haven't read the book, and I want to read the book before I watch the TV show.
I've been too busy.
So you're never going to watch it then?
I've been too busy catching up on other shows that I haven't seen.
Yeah, it's good though. I recommend it because it's only 6 episodes, and that way it's able to adapt the book more accurately than a movie would, but it's also contained enough that you don't have to watch.
I'm a big Neil Gaiman fan, so...
Yeah, I'd say, and he wrote the screenplay adaptation.
And of course, Terry Pratchett, God rest his soul, was the other half of that project. And I also enjoy his work.
It's really good. I read the book a while ago. From what I remember, like it's pretty accurate. There's a few changes, obviously, they've made. But, it's really good. I recommend it. It's really, really well done. The cast is, like, top-notch. And you guys still haven't watched the new Twilight Zone, have you?
No, I haven't. I haven't gone to Mexico for it.
Yeah.
And I haven't subscribed to CBS All Access or 10 All Access. So I haven't.
Is it on 10?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's subscription only.
From what I understand, it's not bad.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily pay for a whole subscription service just to watch it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I finished the first season just finished.
How many episodes per season?
10. Before it came out, we talked quite a lot about how we were excited for it and how we wanted more like weird anthology shows, and we were really excited for Jordan Peele, his involvement. Unfortunately, none of the episodes were really that good.
I mean, the market's not exactly a welcome environment because they're competing with Black Mirror.
Well,
they're competing with all these other really top-notch shows.
I think Black Mirror kind of took over the mantle of kind of a twisted alternate reality
sort of a science
anthology.
fiction-based Twilight Zone, effectively.
So I think making Twilight Zone now feels kind of old, you know?
Unless your stories are tight.
I mean,
just don't do it.
I think there's room for it in the kind of like the twisted stories that aren't revolving around technology.
Yeah.
But again, you'd need to have it focused. It would need to be cohesive. The writing needs to... It's like a weak link situation, right? You have one bad episode.
Yeah.
And in stuff like this, it almost ruins the season.
Yeah. None of the episodes were really that strong. I think maybe the Blue Scorpion episode's probably the best one because that just felt the most Twilight Zone-y.
I mean, apparently they did a reboot or a sequel to the 20,000 Feet in the Air episode.
Yeah, well, I think I talked about that a few weeks ago, Nightmare at 20,000 feet, and they rebooted as like Nightmare at 30,000 feet, and that one was not bad.
But why?
But yeah, and I liked how they changed what it was about. But yeah, overall, it wasn't really that strong, and I think that's the problem. Is none of the episodes were really that strong. Black Mirror, those episodes are like burned into my brain. The original Twilight Zone series, those episodes are burned into my brain. The new Twilight Zone, it's like, oh yeah, I see what they're saying there. You know, like it's not that strong. It needs to be stronger.
You know the thing, I know some of these episodes try their hardest to have a political message.
Yeah.
And the Twilight Zone has more or less always been political in that sense, but I feel like there are some episodes of the Twilight Zone which were just scary.
Yeah,
you know
definitely.
What I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think that
also, you know,
Black Mirror does political well. But it's not necessarily scary. I would prefer a Twilight Zone that maybe toned down the overt political nature to kind of like focus in on that scariness.
Yeah, like the original Twilight Zone, not every episode has to be a political commentary or whatever. Exactly. Like you can have, Also, like the original Twilight Zone, you know, I think the first season were like hour-long episodes, and then the rest of the seasons were half-an-hour episodes. Now the show's on CBS All Access, and they're back to like, you know, 50-minute episodes or whatever, which is normal for this kind of show. But I feel like you're technically on a streaming service, even though I think they do play on the CBS channel in the US. Yeah. So there's some TV.
Yeah.
They're playing on TV at least at some point. But I feel like why not like write the story to as long as it needs to be. Yeah. So have a 15-minute episode, have a half-an-hour episode, have an hour-long episode, have a 90-minute episode.
Well, I mean, we did our review.
And just every season can be like whatever the story requires. That's what I really like about Black Mirror. Like a lot of British shows, even though now it's on Netflix, it's quality over quantity.
And you look at, take Love, Death and Robots, which we reviewed a while back.
Yeah.
That's an anthology, but most of the episodes are less than 10 minutes.
Well, yeah, most of them, but they're animated. That's a bit different.
No, but I'm talking about the story length.
Yeah.
Sort of, they can tell their story in a small amount of time that they need.
Yeah, that's a bit different, but it's like... Yeah, it's just that thing. It's like now it's streaming that you don't have to stick to an hour-long format.
The traditional length.
Yeah, so I think they can benefit. Some of the stories would have been a lot better if they just cut them down a bit. But yeah, the new season of Black Mirror is coming out very soon, which I'm looking forward to, and that's only like 3 episodes. And I think that's great because it's like...
quality over quantity.
They're gonna be good. They're gonna be good.
You know, I remember this,
and you know each one is gonna stick with you.
This conversation happened when they were making not this season of Philly, but like the season before that or the season before that. I can't remember, but they would have breaks between each season, and they wouldn't guarantee that the size of the seasons would be large. They would say, well, if we only do 8 episodes, we only do 8 episodes. This way, we're all excited to keep making it. We don't beat it to death. You know, like if you have like a show that has 10 seasons and each season is 21 episodes, people start to get bored of it. So what they did was they decided we're going to make it the length we want to make it creatively, and that way everyone's excited to go to work and we can put out good content. So they only make good episodes. Yeah. So they only shoot an episode if it's of a certain quality. Yeah. So I think I think that can work for all TV shows, not necessarily just anthology shows.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know there's a business aspect to it, and you know, I know CBS All Access, you know, they want that to work, and you know, Twilight Zone's a big name, but yeah, I'd rather just a couple episodes of Twilight Zone every year than just drop a season and it's kind of forgettable.
It's definitely an American problem because you even look at The Office from the 2000s, like that was like what 8 episode seasons, I think.
It's pretty short. Yeah,
There was like one season.
I like Luther. Luther's like
Yeah.
Three to four episodes.
Yeah, 4 episodes.
Yeah, they do what they
yeah.
need to do, and that's it.
Yeah, I think more, especially with streaming, more shows should do that now. One
Well,
episode can be
But
shorter
I mean, the
or
inverse
longer.
is true, right? The inverse is also true, right? Like, if you can convince Netflix that you need 20 episodes to tell your tale completely,
Yeah.
well, then you should have access to that.
That's true too.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but yeah, then that's the thing as well. Then it's like it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, we only need 3 episodes to tell our story, but then to go and like actually we need 20. You know, that's quite a big.
Yeah, but that was just an arbitrary
No,
number.
but you know what I mean. Like yeah, like there's always this business aspect that is overshadowing the whole
Yeah.
situation. But I just think at this point, yeah, unfortunately, the new Twilight Zone wasn't that great. And I know we had been talking about it a lot in
Yeah.
the lead up to it coming out, and it just kind of,
Hopefully they'll learn.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's already been renewed for a second season, so people are watching it. You know, I never, it's an anthology, so if one episode's bad, I was always like, well, I'll watch the next one.
Yeah.
You know, I never gave up on the show. But yeah, overall, I wasn't too hot on it. Should we move on to Rocketman?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Rocketman. So it's the new Elton John biopic, directed by Dexter Fletcher, who did a movie called Wild Bill, which is actually really, really good. And he also did Eddie the Eagle with Taron Egerton, which I haven't seen, but apparently was well received. So after watching Rocketman, I'll definitely check that out because I'm now interested in how they did that. He also took over after Bryan Singer was fired from Bohemian Rhapsody. Dexter Fletcher took over to finish that movie.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting because I watched Bohemian Rhapsody just to compare it to Rocketman.
Sure.
Because because
He wanted to rock out to the Queen jams. That's all right.
I could do that, you know, in any time, any place. But like the reception of Bohemian Rhapsody, you know, people were
Oh man, that people loved it.
true, but there was also a backlash towards it, saying, you know, it's a load of bullshit.
Yeah.
And so I knew like most biopics are gonna be bad. Like just most of them are.
Generally, yeah.
Generally, they're really bad. So, like, I wasn't really looking forward to Bohemian Rhapsody, and I had put off watching it. But then,
as one should.
exactly, and then, but because we were going to see Rocketman, I was like, well,
Yeah.
I'll watch it just to compare it, especially because of the Dexter Fletcher connection. Even though he didn't technically do that entire film, it's interesting to see how he handled Rocketman from start to finish. And how Bryan Singer had whatever he was doing, and then Dexter Fletcher had to come in and finish it off. So I think one thing about Rocketman is that it overcomes a lot of the typical biopic problems by utilizing fantasy and like musical elements,
Which it does really well.
And I didn't really expect those elements as much.
It was
I'm-
very organically done as well.
Yeah.
I went into this movie having heard that it was very much a fantastical, almost reimagining of like his
Yeah.
youth and sort of rise to stardom.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what we got.
Yeah, but I didn't really know that, and I think the IMDb synopsis is pretty concise, but also a good descriptor of what the movie is. It's a musical fantasy about the fantastical human story of Elton John's breakthrough years.
Yeah, it's pretty tight.
Yeah, like it's tight, but it's like pretty well explains the movie. It stars Taron Egerton as Elton John, who's really, really good.
And I think that give it 5 to 10 years, and he's going to be one of the big A-list stars.
Well, yeah, he's
Pretty much getting there now.
Even
Yeah.
if this movie didn't exist, like he's
on his
been
way.
killing it lately. So, Jamie Bell as Bernie Taupin, who was and still is Elton John's music
Lyricist.
writer.
Connection to the writer of this movie. The movie is written by Lee Hall, and Bernie Taupin was Lee Hall
Jamie
wrote Billy
Bell.
Elliot, and Jamie Bell played Billy
Yeah.
Elliot in the movie.
Well, Lee Hall, who wrote Rocketman, also wrote Billy Elliot, and you can definitely see that similarity in the way the movies work and the musical elements and so on.
Yeah.
Richard Madden plays John Reed, who was Elton John's manager and also lover.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. And Bryce Dallas Howard plays Elton's mother.
I didn't realize that was her
Didn't
until I
you?
looked it up at the end. I'm sitting in the movie watching it last night. I'm like, where have I seen her before?
Yeah.
And then I looked up the cast, and I'm like, that's Bryce Dallas Howard. Like they made her like look different.
She looks the same. She
No,
just didn't have red hair.
I guess.
Can I say
Yeah.
they got the casting for this film so right.
Yeah. Everyone does a really good job.
I'm looking at a picture of Elton John and John Reed, and man, they got them close.
Yeah.
Like the actual,
Let me see.
like
Yeah.
the actual casting choices.
Not
were
bad, yeah.
pretty close.
I think-
Even Taron Egerton.
When Taron Egerton has the big glasses on, like he looks a lot. When he takes the glasses off, obviously he looks a lot different.
Yeah,
But you know, it's not always about looking
just
the
like the
same.
feel of the
yeah, it's the
characters.
feel and it's the authenticity in the performance.
I think we were talking about authenticity versus sort of being realistic.
Yeah.
I
Or
think I framed
true
it
to
as
life.
authenticity
Yeah.
versus truth.
We'll talk about that later, how biopics don't always have to be 100% true as long as what they're saying has an authentic point to it. But yeah, like the casting's great, the costumes, fantastic.
Yeah, costume design was.
The wigs are really good. I know when Nathan and I talked about Extremely Wicked, and I was like, you can tell everyone has like fake wigs and fake beards, and this movie gets that right. I guess it was high. I guess it was higher budget or whatever, but you know, like all that stuff looks really good. I think the movie's pretty well paced.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, the pacing's also helped by the constant flow of musical hits
Exactly.
that
So-
keeps people.
yeah, because it uses that musical kind of fantasy element. It always keeps going and has the driving energy of Elton John's music. Whereas a normal biopic would be like, here's 20, 30, 40 years of someone's life,
Yeah.
and just scene after scene, and you're just like
'Cause
kind of boring.
The songs are out of order.
Yeah,
So, but that's they're in that order to suit the narrative.
exactly.
Not
yeah,
the sort
we'll talk
of
about that later.
discography,
How
sort of historical accuracy.
Yeah, we'll talk about later how like that works really well because they use the songs not even if it wasn't accurate to have that song at that time. It just fits what the
sort of-
character's thinking
the emotional
or feeling.
state
Yeah,
or the theme of what's going on
Yeah.
the screen. But that also helps with the pacing.
it helps
so
with the
much.
pacing, and it also helps with being able to sort of like motivate characters and develop characters quickly, whereas a more traditional biopic would have to slowly have scenes of people talking and
And there's
yada,
10
yada.
minutes of them writing their hit song.
But
Which
then
we don't really get too
most-
much of that in this
most
movie.
biopics they skip that, and so the movie feels rushed, and it feels like you're not really getting to know the people. This movie gets over that problem by transforming those scenes into quick musical numbers or fantasy elements. So it's kind of cheating, but doing it in a way that kind of works.
It's authentic for the film and the characters.
Yeah.
So I think we should also the actual way the film expresses the story is it starts with Elton John going to rehab,
Yeah.
and then the way they connect all
Well,
the different periods of his life.
Yeah, should we do spoilers? I mean, I know it's based on a true
Nah.
story, but
No spoil. Look, I mean, yeah, we'll talk
no,
full
no, no.
spoilers.
I mean,
but it's
spoiler
a
alert.
okay.
gets
so
huge.
so spoiler alert.
Elton gets famous.
If
Spoiler
you,
alert.
if you haven't seen this movie, we all would recommend it. If
absolutely.
if you like music in general, even if you're not an Elton John fan, like it's a good. I don't like musicals, and I liked the musical numbers in this movie.
Yeah.
I think they were really well done, and they helped carry the movie along, and were really energetic,
Yeah.
and helped expand on the characters in the movie. So yeah, I recommend seeing it. It's way better than Bohemian Rhapsody, which isn't surprising. But yeah, if you haven't seen it and you're listening to the show, we're going to do full spoilers, even though it's based on true life. Just we're going to spoil how the movie tells the story.
So
That's where
I wasn't trying to ruin anything.
No, but that's where I'm afraid of spoilers. Is if you haven't seen the movie, Elton John does this, does that, but how does the movie go about that? So spoiler warning for Rocketman.
Spoiler warning, Elton has a drug problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it starts off with him coming to rehab, and then the way the film tells the story is he will start talking about the problems he's facing in his life, which lead him to drink and do drugs.
Yeah.
And he'll say, I was started when I was a child. And then it'll go to his, I can't remember exactly how he phrases it.
But he's also an unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he starts off, and then it'll go to his childhood, and that he will be in his childhood for a period of time.
Yeah.
And then there'll be like some pivotal moment, and he'll come out and say, and then this happened.
But it's not just the rehab scenes aren't just a framing device for to tell his story. It's like literally weaves in and out.
Yeah.
Like he kind of magically travels between like states.
Points in time.
Yeah, points in time. And then they use musical scenes, one to show the feeling or emotional state of the characters and to develop the characters, but also to switch time periods. Like, okay, he's singing this song when he's a kid, and then he walks out, he's still singing the song, but now he's a teenager.
The song Saturday Night is Alright for Fighting is like singing that as a child in like a carnival sort of scene.
No, he's singing it as a kid in the pub to his mum's friends.
Yeah, but he goes outdoors, but then, and then he comes out an adult still singing the song.
When he goes outside, then he's like a late teens or, and that was a really good scene. And see, obviously that song hadn't come out at that time, but that's not the point. It's showing, the emotional and moving the movie forward. So, I mean, unfortunately, like I always write just hundreds of notes and
just skim, man. Just skim.
Yeah,
What's important
I'm just gonna read the dot points, and when you guys want to interject. So with biopics, like we said, generally none of them really that good. They have this problem of rushing past things, trying to fit 20, 30, 40 years of someone's life into 2 hours.
Yeah, the best biopics either do what Elton John's did and they kind of give enough time to each major part, or they focus on one aspect, like a memoir.
Yeah, so like my what do you call it, motto or whatever the word is when it comes to biopics is, what would Scorsese do? WWSD. What would Scorsese do? You look at his biopics and it either focuses on a certain period of time, or like just the way his energy works as a filmmaker, the way his camera moves, the music. It's like it's on such another level to all other filmmakers that it's why his biopics work and a lot of other ones don't. So watching Rocketman, I was like, I was kind of looking at it, I'm like, Scorsese would have done it better. Like his camera would have been moving around, the time periods would have, but Rocketman does so well with the musical sequences and the transitions from time periods.
And I feel like some of the energy you said in the musical sequences is done so well because Taron Egerton actually sings these songs.
Yeah, that's
They're playing.
I will talk about that later as well. So, like, I think Rocketman is a really good biopic because even though it's not to Scorsese's level, because Scorsese's
he's gone.
You can't get to that level. Like, I think it utilizes those musical and fantasy sequences so well, and that's why it works.
I think, as Nath, we'll talk about it later, but I also think the people involved in this film very obviously cared. I think that's what sets this one apart.
Yeah.
This wasn't just a money movie.
Yeah.
Whereas you could make an argument that Bohemian Rhapsody was just a money-grabbing
Bohemian
project.
Rhapsody definitely feels very mechanical. Like, here's a scene, here's another scene, here's another scene. Whereas this one,
the lads in Queen just wanted some more payouts.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm bored, let's make a biopic on Queen because we love ourselves so much. This film, Elton John's story hasn't been told as much as Queen's story has in, like, everyone knows the story about Freddie Mercury. Everyone knows the tragedy, blah, 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 blah.
Well,
but,
yeah.
Elton
not everyone does, but...
No, but in terms of just general music aficionados...
Yeah.
But that's not to say people don't know about Elton John's life, but it's not in the main spectacle as much as Queen's has been over the years.
There's been many documentaries and many sort of adaptations of that sort of band...
Yeah, exactly. Queen has a mythos,
but
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like if you're gonna...
Where Elton John doesn't really. So I think that's why this movie works, because it's a singular project. Elton was on board, and the people involved actually cared. It wasn't just that kind of money cashing.
Bohemian Rhapsody could have been great if it was,
authentic,
similar to Rocketman. maybe some musical fantasy sequences, or to make it much more true to life, not just authentic, but actually factually correct. Because Bohemian Rhapsody played fast and loose with that as well. So, this is Rocketman's kind of what Bohemian Rhapsody should have been.
Yeah. And it would have been that way if Sacha Baron Cohen was allowed to have his way with the project.
Well, see, I'm not 100% on board with that, but yeah, his version apparently was supposed to be much more true to life and hard-hitting and gritty, and while Rocketman has sort of that element of adult-oriented, sex, drugs, nudity, and so on, I don't think it takes it far enough. Bohemian Rhapsody was very clean and very whitewashed isn't the word, but you know what I mean.
There were no midgets walking around with trays of coke.
Yeah, well, there was a midget, but he wasn't carrying coke.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah, but see, I think Freddie does one pill in the whole movie. Rocketman, Elton, you definitely see he is drug fueled. And plus, coupled with the fantasy sequences, it definitely goes. I feel like they could have gone further with that.
What's interesting is Rocketman the way it is because Elton John is alive and involved, or do you know what I mean? If Elton John was dead, do you think that Rocketman would be clean? Bohemian Rhapsody is clean because the only people involved want it to be clean. Would Bohemian Rhapsody still be the same if Freddie Mercury had not have passed away?
Probably
because he was
not.
kind of upfront.
Yeah, well,
about
I
his
think
life.
that's a good point. Elton John's probably just quite open about his life
because he's past that now. He's at the stage where he's happy,
exactly,
and he can appropriately reflect.
Yeah, so he's probably happy for them to explore that. Whereas because Freddie's gone and Brian May and Roger Taylor produced Bohemian Rhapsody,
and they
kind of got to tell their version of the story.
But also, I would imagine them being a little hesitant to not honour Freddie's memory, but they don't maybe necessarily want to pass him off as a drug-fueled sex addict.
No.
Well, see,
it's a tricky situation
the problem is there are certain facts about the man and the band's lives.
I understand that.
You guys haven't seen Bohemian Rhapsody, so we can't really discuss this, but I could go on for another 2-3 hours about the Freddie's interpretation in Bohemian Rhapsody and how, we won't go into it because we're already running out of time, and we do have quite a lot to get through. But that's definitely a situation where they went about it in the wrong way. It was too clean. Yeah, it was not only was it not factually correct most of the time, it also wasn't authentic when it wasn't being factually correct. Rocketman is the opposite, where yes, there are a few things that aren't 100% factually correct, but I think they're accurate to the time, and the musical fantasy elements help to push the movie forward and lift it up.
My point was, I think that we have the interpretation we've got because Elton's alive to kind of give permission to tell his story in this certain way.
Yeah, that's probably true. So I liked, like we said, Taron Egerton. One of the reasons his performance is so good is because he sings the songs, and he doesn't just recreate Elton's voice. He's got his own kind of thing.
Yeah. Also,
but it's also close enough that it's
they've also worked
not distracting
in Kingsman. So I think that maybe since they knew each other outside of work, in quotation marks, maybe the reason I think he did such a good job as Elton is because he could go to Elton and he could say, help me understand how you were feeling at this point in time. Yeah. And I'm sure him and Elton spent time together talking and discussing his life.
I reckon they would.
That could give him an internal perspective.
Yeah. Well, I know that Elton told Taron don't just copy me. Do your own thing. And I think that kind of comes through.
It works well. Yeah, no, the live performances are really good.
It has much more energy and fits in with that musical style than, Bohemian Rhapsody, where they just play Queen songs over the characters mimicking, Really? Yeah, pretty much. I also like how they use different arrangements of classic Elton songs. Like I said, Bohemian Rhapsody just plays the Queen song as it is, as it's been recorded, as it's been released. And they play it on the scene, and that's it. Whereas this movie, it's not the exact same version that from your CD or your record or whatever.
But that's good.
But I think that's a good thing. And it adds to that musical element of like, oh, this is a musical where characters jump up and start dancing and singing. And I also like how other characters, not just Elton, sing along without feeling cringy, which a lot of musicals do.
Oh, yeah. Because this movie is a fever dream. It's fantasy. It can pull it off.
But also the songs aren't just 100% the recreations of the recording that we know.
Yeah.
I think they could have spent a little bit more time on a few things. Like I said, the pacing's pretty good. It's you can sort of start to feel the length at the end, but there are just a couple things that they do move past very quickly.
I think notably, this segment in the movie where he gets married.
Yeah, like I think they could. Like I understand why they did it. You don't want the movie to be too long. You also don't want to drag the movie down at a point. At that point in the middle of the movie or whatever. And like we said, the musical elements kind of allow the movie to skip some of the facts. But yeah, I think they could have spent a little bit more time with his marriage. And
I think one of my... Sorry, James.
Even, at the start of the movie, he has his landlady, is his girlfriend, who I don't think was a real person, but was based on real girlfriends that he had. And they kind of introduce her, but you never really see her, and then he comes out to her and they break up. Like, I feel like, and then he comes out as gay, not publicly, but in the movie to other people. And then he gets married, and then the next scene they break up.
There's one scene...
I feel like they could have... again, the movie would just be too long and too dragged out, but they could have worked that in better. Like, he had a girlfriend before. In real life, he was engaged before his wife. Like, they shouldn't have just sprung it on us. Like, he gets married.
We had one
just for
scene.
The movie. Like, if this was not based on real life and they did that would be really weird. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you.
That's as a narrative, telling a story, it felt weird.
There was one good scene with the wife that I liked, and pretty much the only scene he has with the wife.
Yeah. See, and is it when they sing together?
No, this is when they're having breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like they're living in separate rooms.
Classic Citizen Kane breakfast.
And, yeah, they're sitting down, and she's pouring orange juice or whatever she has.
Oh, yeah, she's eating toast, and he's like... Toast. And he pours, like 3/4 vodka?
Yeah, and then he orange juice on top.
And then a little bit of orange
juice. I just like the way that simple scene was shot, and he just downs it in one go, and she's just crying.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So I know they didn't spend too much time on that.
Yeah.
But what they did shoot that scene, it told a lot.
It tells you a lot, and they do it really effectively. And because there's that scene where they sing with each other and they quote unquote fall in love, it kind of it does. It kind of eliminates the need for them to sit down and go on a date and him to not explain with words, but to explain with acting, like, oh, I'm gay, but also I kind of have to get married and I like this woman. They get over that quickly. Again, it's kind of a cheat, but it works by just having them have a duet and sing to each other. So it works, but it's also kind of like too quickly... It's like a weird double-edged thing,
I think that's the problem, though, is like when they decided to tell but the main course of his stardom, they made a decision that there are some things where you're going to have to gloss over quick because, he had an interesting life. It's not like a boring life where you can focus on the interesting parts.
Yeah.
His life was all interesting parts, so you got to kind of get through it. Whereas... Like, if they had made, like, as we said, a more focused one, maybe like a memoir movie about his marriage, well, then you could explore that more fully. But the problem with telling a life is that there is certain things that they're going to...
Yeah, it's like that. It's the biopic problem of squishing it into...
with his dad, for example, you could have spent more time on that, but they kind of just rushed through that.
That's the other thing, is like his parents are very kind of stereotypical, kind of cliche, and you don't have a lot of time to really develop them as characters. They're just there as foils or to give Elton some motivation.
Angst.
Exactly. But yeah, it all just kind of works. It's just things that they could have worked on a little bit more. Also, I feel like as an audience member, you kind of have to have at least a little bit of knowledge as to who Elton John is. You don't have to be super familiar with his life or his work, but I just feel like there are a couple of bits where I was like, if you'd never heard of Elton John before, you would be completely like, what the hell's going on? Like I said with the wife, it's if this wasn't based on a true story and he just got married and divorced in the next scene, you'd be like, what the hell happened? That was too quick.
Yeah.
It's similar at the start of the movie when Elton and his band are traveling with a American blues band.
Yeah, soul band.
Yeah, and one of the band members just comes up to him and kisses him and then walks off. And I was like, yeah, we know, the audience knows Elton's gay.
But how do we? Yeah,
it's like when in terms of a narrative the narrative of the movie,
we didn't see Elton come out to that gentleman.
Yeah,
so that gentleman just kisses him on a hunch. Allegedly.
Yeah, exactly. And then later in the movie, it comes up again when the same band member's like, "But you're gay."
Yeah, we didn't see that happen on screen.
And I was like, huh? Like they could have done like a one more scene where the character, like he's maybe in a more intimate situation with that guy.
It takes like 30 seconds to have like one sexual tension moment between them.
It's like, it's kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, like all it takes is that one quick scene to kind of establish.
For us, it's like, well, we know Elton John's gay, we know his persona, like, it makes sense, next scene. But it's like, if you were kind of not 100%
down with Elton.
Yeah, it's if you didn't know everything about him, it's like, wait, what's going on? Like, just in terms of how you make a movie, how you do the narrative and character, if it wasn't based on a true story, you'd be like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I agree.
It just in the movie, it just kind of works. Everything just kind of works out because of the other surrounding contextual elements. So, honestly, we could do another couple hours just on Rocketman.
All right, well,
I'm just going to quickly go through the
let's
dot
just talk
points.
about the important points before we move on.
Yeah,
so what's the important issues we had with it?
So, could have gone further with the nudity, sex, and drugs. I think even though this is a R-rated in America movie, it's not a hard R. It's a very soft R.
It's very tactical in what it presents.
Exactly. As Callum and I were talking last night when we saw the movie, it could easily be cut down to PG-13 by removing a couple of swear words.
And that's on purpose.
And I think that's, like you said, a tactical choice by the production company, the studios, whatever.
So in countries like Russia, they can censor the homosexual elements of the film while still keeping the integrity of the movie largely intact.
Yeah. And
even though we don't agree with the censoring of films, it's good that they can see a version of this film in Russia. No, I agree. Like if someone in Russia is an Elton John fan in Russia, the unfortunate fact is,
if you live in Russia, just pirate the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, just
pirate it if you live in Russia. That's fine.
Like we could do another whole episode on this, but I'm kind of the thing of, if you're going to censor something, just don't show it at all.
I agree with James here. Don't censor it.
Yeah. But anyway,
also airplane viewings. That's not.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the movie does a decent, whereas Bohemian Rhapsody was just too clean and too washed, this movie definitely has the drugs, has the sex, has the swearing, but it's just not far enough. It's still very safe, and I think, like we said, that's on purpose, and I understand they probably want to cut it down for TV and airplane showings, but also they want to reach a quite wide audience, and they want to appease all ages, not all ages, but
no, I get what you mean. Yeah, you don't want to exclude a demographic from enjoying the movie because you take it to. The problem is, again, I would take it further.
Yeah,
I would say, if you don't like certain aspects of Elton's life, then don't see the film.
Yeah, you don't have to go full European art house with it, but just a couple, there's no nudity in this movie.
I think you see a bum.
You see a butt, maybe. Otherwise, everyone's wearing something, even if it's skimpy.
See, that's one thing I would change. I think more nudity.
Yeah.
For a man who lived. By the admission of the film, there were orgies. He was a gay man in the 70s and the 80s, whatever.
I think they
did party hard back then, especially Elton. Yeah. You want me to believe that he never saw naked men?
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, you don't necessarily have to have hardcore sex scenes all the time. But just there's very little nudity. The sex scenes that are there are pretty tame. The swearing is not bad, but again, could have.
Yeah,
I guarantee you, Elton swore more in real life.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
100%. And the drugs is a decent amount of drug use, but nothing really intense or.
If I was watching this movie, I think
You know
that
what's-
Elton had lots more of issues with alcohol than
Yeah,
drugs.
you know what's interesting is he says that he had a problem with marijuana, but from what I remember, I
you
don't
don't
really
see him smoke.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You don't really see him smoke or anything
You
like
see him
that.
do see, this is another thing is like the first part of the movie, you see him drink a bit, but he doesn't really do anything. And then after a certain point in the movie, he starts doing coke, but not. Yeah, it's like
It's not Scarface levels.
yeah,
either.
none of it's really really over the top. They could have just pushed that a little further. Also, as we were discussing last night, the movie's not gay enough.
And that sounds strange, but it's true.
Like from what I understand, he was never like the gayest gay man.
Yeah.
But I feel like
No,
when that's
the
a
man
ma-
who comes
no,
out
just
just
when
as
that's
queen,
terms
just
of-
as the queen
when
on
that's
the
a major
stage.
when that's a major part of your life,
Yeah.
you would think it would be expressed more in the film.
Yeah, I think like just in terms of like the nudity and the sex scenes
Yeah.
and like we said the not explanation, you don't need to explain it,
Exposition.
but the exploration of his sexuality when he was younger, like they
Yeah.
could have gone further with that. Yeah, it does seem a bit
Because I
tame
think
at times.
the whole tension we get between Elton struggling with that identity is through things like he gets married.
Yeah.
You know, like we don't really see him struggle with his sexuality in a way
Yeah.
that I think we should. Because for a man to get married to a woman, there has to be at least a little bit of that kind of, am I doing the right thing? That internal
Yeah.
struggle, which is interesting for a character. I know it's
Yeah.
terrible for a human being,
Yeah.
but good for a character on screen.
Exactly, yeah.
Not enough tantrums.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Elton John has been known for his public hissy
Panties.
fits and what do you call it? Outbursts.
I don't blame him for wanting them to exclude that from the movie.
Like there's like one or two in the movie, but again, they could have gone a little bit further with that. Yeah, they definitely could have put a bit more of that. So yeah, the cast is really good. All the young actors who play young Elton are all really good.
Yeah.
Taron Egerton's really good. I think they gave Rami Malek the Oscar for Bohemian Rhapsody. I love Rami Malek. I'm a big Rami Malek fan. I don't think he was that good as Freddie, and I don't think it's all his fault. I think it's the way the movie interpreted
Oh,
Freddie.
I wouldn't blame him at all.
But since he's got this movie, Rocketman deserves more Oscars than Bohemian Rhapsody ever did. Bohemian Rhapsody deserves no Oscars.
Yeah.
But Rocketman deserves a lot more Oscars, and I don't think it'll get any because it's too similar. It's a music biopic, so it's like, well, we already gave it to Rami Malek, so we can't give Taron Egerton an Oscar
Yeah,
for
I get
Rocketman.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean?
They'd feel like
Even though I think Taron Egerton's definitely more of an Oscar-worthy performance
I think
in
that
this movie.
if Rocketman were to come out first, I think people would be saying, "Oh, this is how you make a biopic." And then when Bohemian Rhapsody came out, I think people would be more
Yeah.
critical.
Also,
what I mean?
like with a lot of awards, it was more about honouring Queen and
Yeah.
honouring Freddie's memory than really honouring the movie itself. Yeah,
Yeah, I think if Rocketman had come out before, I think people would be more critical of Bohemian Rhapsody
yeah, definitely.
because the contrast is pretty stark.
People were critical of it, but yeah, there would have been even more of a wider public backlash.
Yeah, but how did all the major film critics feel about Bohemian Rhapsody? Was it like a positive reaction?
I think it was just a kind of meh. But I think, the general audience is just happy to see Queen songs on screen and happy to see Freddie brought to life again. But yeah, I knew there was a lot of backlash against it. So what I like about the rehab framing device of Elton telling his story in rehab, doing flashbacks, that's not new, that's not interesting. It's kind of old, it's kind of cliche. However, the way they implement it in the movie, I think is really well done, and I think it really fits the overall themes of the movie really well, which is Elton wants to get better. He's there because he's had for whatever reason, he's had a bad life and he's mistreated people and he's mistreated himself, and so he wants to get better. And I think one of the things I like about the movie is that it's more about Elton getting better, accepting who he is.
Yeah.
Look,
I personally didn't have a problem with the framing device.
No, but you can agree it's a tired trope.
Yeah, but you need some way. You know what I mean? Unless
but-
you do a literal start to death kind of interpretation, you do need an interpretation device.
But that's what I'm saying is I liked it because even though it's been done before, it's implemented well, and it also fits in with I think one of the themes of the ending of the movie, which is Elton wanted to get better. He became a better person. He is now a better person than he used to be, and also he finally accepted who he truly was. There's a bit in the middle of the movie where he comes out to his mother, and his mother says something like, "You're choosing a life of being alone forever."
No one will ever really love you.
Yeah, and that kind of destroys him and sends him even further into his depression and substance abuse. But I think what I like about the end of the movie is that after rehab, not only does he get clean from substance abuse, but he also kind of accepts, I'm a gay man now.
Yeah.
Deal with it. I'm happy now. And then you see, in the end credits, you see photos of where Elton is now, and he's happily married, and he's got kids and so on.
Yeah.
So
I also
like
love
that.
I'm a shallow man, and I love the costume he's in rehab. He's in that devil outfit.
With the wings.
It just looks so cool.
Apparently, they couldn't wash that suit because it's got diamonds on it, so the suit stank.
Oh yeah.
It just looked cool, so I was like down.
It looks cool, but it doesn't smell cool.
As soon as the movie started, I'm already down with like the way Elton's presenting himself. I'm like,
costumes are so
up.
good. Yeah.
Well, when you're that rich and famous, like he walks down the street.
When you're making a movie about Elton John, if the costumes aren't up to snuff,
you just stop making a movie. Yeah.
The rest of the cast is all great. I think everyone does a really good job. I really like Richard Madden as John Reed. He's such a slimy arsehole, but also he's got that charismatic element,
really
so you can see why people stuck.
He's a snake oil salesman.
Yeah. It just makes me want to see Richard Madden as Bond more, because I know he's been rumored.
Amazing.
He's been rumored as, being in the running for perhaps maybe taking over from Daniel Craig when he leaves the role.
If he ever leaves.
Yeah, no,
my eyes.
He'll just complain
Mostly-
Heard that before.
Mostly, I think it's just fan choices at this point. I don't know if there's any internal discussion from the people who make the Bond franchise.
Sooner or later, they'll get sick of Daniel Craig having a whinge every time. Just be like, fine then, you're not coming back.
Yeah, but Richard Madden's been, I think, in most of people's lists. As Taron Egerton, I think, was also on some of people's lists. Even though
He'd be pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd like. But anyway, after this movie, I would definitely like to see Richard Madden. Like as the way he plays John Reed as this kind of
sociopath
huge asshole. Yeah, huge asshole, but also
he's playing James Bond.
Yeah, super charismatic. And even though he's got like the dodgy 70s suit and the funny, the big hair, like he definitely looks suave as hell. Like he looks like a Bond.
This is his screen. This is like his sort of soft screen test for Bond.
Yeah.
Like when he goes for the audition, he can be like, let's just put on a few of my scenes as Rocketman.
Yeah.
Because he's playing that character.
Yeah. And as I was sitting next to Nathan in the movies and watching Rocketman, and we enjoyed the amount of like Cockney slang and geezers.
Cockney geezers?
Yeah, there are a lot of governors in this film.
A lot of governors. And we especially like Stephen Graham as Elton's first like manager, Dick James.
Sort of record company boss.
Stephen Graham's great. He's in Snatch and This Is England, and he played young Al Capone on Boardwalk Empire. Like, he's so good. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just quickly, a couple of notes that I didn't have really tied into anything. In the movie, Elton takes his name from one of his bandmates, Elton Dean, and then he can't figure out a last name, and so he just looks over, sees a picture of the Beatles, and picks
John Lennon
John.
sort of shines and like...
And that was hilarious, and we loved it. But in real life, he actually got the name from Long John Baldry, who was another musician that he like admired and toured with. So again, like a movie doesn't have to be 100% accurate.
Yeah.
And that moment was great. But it would have been interesting, to see Long John Baldry in the movie and to like honor him, because everyone knows the Beatles, everyone loves the Beatles.
Yeah, but who knows Long John?
Exactly. So
I certainly didn't.
Yeah. It's a shame not all the songs could be used in the movie, but I think the songs that were used were utilized really well.
Yeah.
And like we said, even if they weren't accurate to the time,
they all served a purpose.
It worked in the context, and they worked in enough of like the melodies of even the songs they couldn't use. You hear a few melodies from songs that they never really use, but you just hear them in the background and stuff. So that's really cool. because this movie kind of charts the rise of Elton pretty much just till the 80s, I would like to see in like 10, 20 years like a sequel. Because biopics is usually just the biopic, that's it. Could you imagine Taron Egerton?
He pulls a Christian Bale, he gets a bit fat.
In a few years, he's a bit
balding.
older, puts on a bit of weight. Like, he could play older Eldon through the 90s through today.
Goes full method, gets gay for the role.
Like, it would be awesome to see, like, the first biopic sequel.
You
Like,
know what would be-
so then you can watch Rocketman and the sequel back to back and have this epic journey.
Or it could be a semi-Elton John, semi-biopic about the white... what was that band he took under his wing? The rock and roll band.
Stripes? Nah.
No, not the Stripes. Not the, there was this young band that he found and he nurtured, and they had a record deal. He got them a record deal.
They didn't last very long.
But they were
could be
incredible.
sequel material.
Yeah, that's the
There you
thing.
go.
They were incredible.
And, yeah, they could talk about. They could do stuff on the Lion King. You
'Cause
know,
yeah.
so
He's
sequel material. 10 years. Dexter
Yeah.
Fletcher returns as director. Taron Egerton returns. I'd be down for that. Even though, you know, I hate every movie now, like we were talking about with the Batman trilogy. Every movie now has to be a trilogy or a franchise. I'm like, no, I don't want that. But I would definitely be down if they could.
So we want
Do a
who's in
sequel.
who's in our cinematic universe?
So yeah,
we want Bowie.
We figured at the end stinger for Rocketman should be Bowie with the eye patch. You know, not Diamond Dogs. What's it called?
Yeah.
You know, he's got the Halloween Jack. The Bowie, he comes in and says there was an idea or whatever. Talks to Elton, who's Rocketman, who's same as Iron Man. There's even a scene in Rocketman where Elton like has rocket
Launches
boosters
up
and
into-
launches up into the sky. So he's Iron Man. And then who else you need? You need the Rolling Stones.
You need Bob Dylan as like the
Dylan.
the old mentor on top of the hill.
And Freddie Mercury as well. That's your music cinematic cinematic universe.
Transatlantic cinematic universe.
Yeah, like 60s, 70s rock star cinematic universe.
I reckon that's about it for Rocketman.
Yeah, I think we can move on. We're a bit pressed for time because I went a bit overboard with my Death Stranding notes and went full deep dive analysis and so on.
The live hour is nearly over, so
You don't want to switch over now?
we'll switch over now, I reckon.
All right, yeah. If you're listening live, thank you very much. Be sure to check out the podcast on Shout Engine, iTunes, or on your regular podcasting app.
Up next, if you're listening live, is Car Talk with Matty J.
Yeah, thanks everyone. If you're listening to the podcast, we'll be right back in a second.
Welcome back to the Tuesday review, and now on to our Death Stranding discussion.
Yeah, so I went full deep dive on Death Stranding and did all these notes and all these analysis and so on, but I feel like we're now getting to the point in the Tuesday review run of episodes where we're getting too much content for the restrictions we have in the studio. So I think like we at this point we could do 2 episodes a week, but because of the restrictions we have, and you know we only get the studio for this limited time, we can't really do that. So yeah, instead we'll just kind of quickly discuss Death Stranding and what we liked about the trailer.
So I think we should probably start with some background context.
Yeah.
Hideo Kojima is the person in charge of Kojima Studios, which is creating Death Stranding.
Kojima is like the rock star of video game developers.
Yeah.
He's like the most famous singular like video game.
He's like the David Bowie of game developers.
Like he's if you said it's kind of like saying like, oh, that's a Nolan movie or whatever. You know, it's like, oh, that's a Kojima game. Usually with a game, it's like a team of people.
But he always presents that creative vision.
He's like a director of a film.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
like a creative director of his games.
He's like not only are his games very cinematic, and not only do they take a lot of influence from Hollywood, and not only do they contain lots of animated cinematics, but he kind of makes very filmic very cinematic games.
They most notably, I guess, famously or infamously, they share a lot with films. There's a
Yeah.
lot. The games might have 5 to 10 hours of cutscenes.
Yeah. But just like, the designs and the storytelling, it's very influenced by like American movies.
But it's also very identifiably Kojima.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
it's very weird.
He has a
manages.
flair.
Yeah.
He manages to sort of take all of these inspirations and these sort of feels from Hollywood film, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and he makes it uniquely his own.
Yeah. Yeah, he has his own voice that it's, that's a Kojima game. And his latest game. So, I mean, he we should say he's known for the Metal Gear Solid franchise.
Yeah.
And the Silent Hill franchise, along with a lot of other video games. And his new game, Death Stranding, which I don't know if we've talked about in the Tuesday review. I know we talked about it on Man vs. Movies back in the day. But there hasn't been...
No.
I don't think
It's been
since
pretty
then.
quiet. There
Yeah.
hasn't been much news, which is why this has all come as... So the reason we're talking about Death Stranding is a trailer was released.
Yeah.
Now, this is newsworthy because they've been quietly toiling away for like three and a half years, I think. Something close to that.
Yeah.
And there's been nothing. No leaks of any kind. So...
Yeah, I mean, there's been a little bit of rumors, a little bit of a couple of
Some like
things
behind
here
the
and
scenes
there,
pictures
a
of like
few-
people in green suits, but
There's
that's
a few. Yeah, there was a couple of trailers. There was like one trailer last year and one trailer the year before that,
Yeah,
or
that's about
maybe maybe even further than that. So, but other than that, and the way Kojima works, he's like kind of like we were expecting them to take even more time developing the
Look,
game.
I mean, I assumed it'd be a PS5 release.
yeah,
That's what I just assumed. Like,
Yeah,
it was
that's
just,
what I
to me,
thought.
it was just like, well, Death Stranding will come out, and
Yeah.
it'll come out in like maybe late 2020.
yeah.
Or
Even later,
well, midway 20,
I was like, we could wait forever for this
It's like
game.
a cyberpunk situation.
Yeah.
It's like, it's coming, don't know when, but...
But it's like for most people who are familiar with Kojima, it's like, yeah, of course. Like he's just gonna make the best.
Yeah.
The development time is helped in this case by the fact that he's using a very well-built engine. He didn't have to start from scratch.
Yeah,
That's true
That's
too.
also true.
Yeah.
So that adds a lot of that reduces a lot of the production
But,
time.
Yeah, I guess we should say when that trailer dropped a couple of days ago, not only was it an insane 8-9 minute long trailer,
but the release date
but
trailer
had
was
the
9
release
minutes.
had the release date on it, which is November 8th,
Which is
2019,
insanely
which
soon.
is extremely soon and was very unexpected. And like you were saying,
Oh, the fact that they have an engine
Yeah,
ready to use will
but-
take a year off the production
but
time.
like we were saying before we started the show, it's like Kojima's kind of known for taking his time and
Yeah.
was maybe one of the reasons why he split with Konami
Yeah, 'cause-
after Metal Gear Solid 5.
well, during Metal Gear Solid 5.
Well, yeah, exactly. He never technically, I guess, finished it himself. So, but now he's like pretty quickly, not quickly, but he's now they're going to release Death Stranding a lot sooner than we thought. I was like,
mean,
what?
What was the production time on Metal Gear Solid 5? I can't even remember.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, look it up. But I mean, when did Metal Gear Solid 4 came out? 2008.
Yeah, a long time before.
So
I'm
it
assuming
was quite a long time.
I'm assuming that all wasn't development time between them.
yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if the development time for Metal Gear Solid 5 was like 2 years, and then Konami was like, "You're done." You know what I mean?
It's probably
Like,
even longer.
I'd be surprised if it was that long, because, like, if
Well-
you've been working on a game for 4 years,
It
I
started.
don't-
It's at least to public knowledge.
Yeah.
It started development in 2012,
and when was it released?
and it was released in September the 1st, 2015.
See, that's So
Okay.
I was,
And he technically hadn't finished it
Yeah,
yet. So
so-
that's probably what the...
so about two and a half years, they're probably like, "You're done," or
Yeah.
"We're gonna finish," because he probably said, "I wanted." Knowing Kojima, like Death Stranding's like three and a half years, so he was
Yeah.
probably like, "I want a 4-year development time."
But
Yeah.
this was also the first Metal Gear Solid game on the PS4.
Yeah.
So it would have required a completely new engine
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So I would have assumed that Kojima's ideal development time would have been 4 years.
Yeah.
I don't know that for sure.
But like 4 years isn't unusual for a big AAA
No, it's
game.
not at all. Especially
No,
if you
but-
have to create again.
Like
stressing-
Rockstar's games take
but
4 or 5
Konami-
years each.
But that's
Konami-
just because that's a different
Again,
argument. That's a different topic.
That's true, yeah.
Konami
That's completely
Konami specialize in yearly sports games.
Yeah,
So-
Konami's definitely a company who's just like, we want money, we don't care about the actual creative
Yeah.
side of the games.
Konami's largest income source is pachinko machines in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they take
Video
video, game
games is
franchises.
a
They
side
care,
business.
they care very little about the integrity of their
So that's probably why they
creative
booted
side. Yeah,
Kojima.
exactly. And now there's a huge backlash from fans against Konami.
Well, they played his trap card, didn't they?
yeah, fuck Konami. Like, just there's no one
there's-
wants anything to do with
You
them
can, you can
anymore.
look up on the internet the smile that Andrew House, the then CEO or
Yeah,
whatever he was of
Sony.
Sony,
President, yeah.
president of Sony had when that E3 he came out on stage with Hideo Kojima and says,
Yeah.
"Look who's working with Sony now."
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that was awesome when, he got fired from Konami or left or whatever.
And there was basically a
And then-
bidding war.
Yeah, and then Sony was like, please, you can do whatever you want.
We'll give you money.
Yeah, and now it's actually coming out, which it's crazy. We didn't even think.
Massive payoff for Sony.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think of it as a risk at all to
No.
give Kojima a credit
The
card.
game's going to do well
But
regardless.
Massive
And
art, like cultural payoff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
And-
when this game comes out as art.
as I was saying before, I was like, even if the game's bad or even if I don't like it, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to play it, I'm going to love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
it's
mean,
Like, it's just,
we
how can
liked-
this game not be...
There's a movie by Kevin Costner called The Postman, and we like that movie. And
Oh, yeah.
this is like a science fiction version of The Postman.
Yeah.
From what we
Yeah.
know so far.
Well,
It's in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, when remember when the first trailer came out a few years ago, and it was like Norman Reedus,
with his Norman feeders.
Norman Reedus and his Norman Feeders, but he was like carrying the cargo up the hill and it was like slowly walking, and people were making jokes like it's like, oh, Amazon Express Delivery, the video game, or FedEx, the video game, whatever. But now Kojima has released like a synopsis, and with the context, the new trailer, even though it's very weird
Yeah.
and cryptic, it gives some exposition and context to what might happen in the game, and it definitely seems more in line with what The Postman is about.
which will amuse us to no end.
For us is like, yes. So I think basically Norman Reedus plays a character named Sam who seems to be, he in the trailer, he's like working for the president of the, like,
He's working for the president of the United States,
Yeah,
who is
but-
sick. But they're
but it's
working
set-
to rebuild America.
it's set in this like post-apocalyptic world where some sort of event has happened, and like the land of the living and the land of the dead have sort of
Shifted out of balance?
Yeah,
In question mark?
and there's some sort of like post-apocalyptic event that society has crumbled, and I think it's called the UCA, the United Cities of America now, and it's up to Sam to sort of, like the president says to him, like reconnect people, like to reconnect America, which is again the postman. And Sam's like, no, we don't need that. America's finished. We don't need that shit. Which again is what happens at the start of the postman. So like,
Mr. Kojima,
like-
where have you taken? What movies have you been watching lately?
like we said, Kojima takes a lot of influence from American movies. And he might have, taken a little bit of inspiration.
So
from that.
let's hope there's a sequel called Water Stranding.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's all the kind of whale and seaside imagery in Death Stranding, so it's already a world-to-world and a Postman.
Or this
movie
could only get
together-
better
game
if
together.
Kevin Costner was one of the actors.
Oh
Oh,
man,
man.
oh, like that would be so good. But yeah, like one of the reasons, if you're not familiar, one of the reasons everyone's excited about this game is one, because Kojima's a mad genius and his games are always weird and over the top and different and out there, and two, because he's been fully David Lynch style unleashed
Yeah.
to do whatever. Sony,
What happens when you have no
So,
constraints?
Sony has given him a lot of money and time to pretty much do whatever he wants. Three, because obviously the money goes into the production value is very high. The graphics are insane. The the design, like the look of everything is really, really cool.
Yeah. So Kojima's his own boss now.
Yeah, and I keep I'm repeating myself again, but the fact that he's using an engine that belongs to Sony means they didn't have to spend $100 million licensing or building an engine. So all of that money Sony gives goes basically into game assets and game development.
It's the same engine that
Horizon Zero
used.
Dawn used, which is a first-party Sony game, basically.
Yeah.
So also they would have had like the documentation for that engine should be top quality.
Yeah, so because Sony made the engine, they know everything about it,
Yeah.
effectively. It's a second-party developer, but it's owned by Sony, effectively. So the fact that they don't have to pay, he hasn't had to pay to research, license, or develop any of that, means all the money he gets goes straight into the motion capture tech, which developing the actual game itself.
Also explains why he can afford such AAA stars.
And the talent.
That's another reason why people are excited about this, because Norman Reedus plays the main character, Sam Bridges.
Yeah, and we have our second favorite Del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro makes a special appearance in the game, but I believe he's being voiced by someone else. Like, he just lended his appearance.
Still good.
And then there's going to be another actor. And Nicholas Winding Refn, the director, is also going to be in the game, like lending his appearance.
Mads
Mikkelsen, of course,
Our
who
boy.
plays the villain. Like
Amazing choice.
What
for
a perfect villain
insane.
choice.
Troy Baker plays another villain, and Leah Sado plays one of the leads. Like, so many like insane cast members. Yeah, and
Only Kojima.
yeah, like in what other world would Guillermo del Toro and Nicholas Winding Refn, two like directors, lend their likeness to a video game? Only Kojima could inspire. Only Kojima could get Mads Mikkelsen
I know.
to play the villain in a video game.
I was discussing with Callum on the way here about how like the graphics look so good now,
Yeah.
and the barrier is slowly shifting. Like the sort of the separation between game and film.
Yeah.
And like it's weakening a little bit.
Yeah.
Like these graphics look so good that actors like
The
can
uncanny
play.
valleys, like slowly.
The
But,
fact
like-
that you can see a character on screen and be like, that's Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the fact that the motion capture is so good
Mm.
that like actors can like see themselves playing a video game character and it looks like them a lot.
Yeah.
Like it looks really good.
And it's also because other than Guillermo del Toro and Nicholas Winding Refn, who just lent their likeness but are being played by other actors, like Troy Baker, Mads Mikkelsen, Norman Reedus, Leah Sado, the other actors and actresses, like they're playing themselves in the game, like motion capture, voice, and so on. So it's an acting performance
Yeah, it's real
from
acting.
start to finish,
Yeah.
like the entirety.
And it's probably not that different from a lot of CG movies that
Well,
they do today.
now
Like,
movies are all
yeah.
CGI crap anyway.
Yeah,
so
that's
So it's like if these actors have ever done like an animated movie,
I guess,
it's like
yeah.
from an acting perspective, it's just another work day.
I guess it's closer to Gollum or Thanos or one of those all CGI creations. But then, yeah, they're also on top of that, like lending all their voices to more. It's just more. Everything's
Yeah.
more because
It's
the
just
game's
more work,
longer.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so like everyone, like people are really excited for this. We're really excited for this. One of the things I really like, or I'm looking forward to, is that it's a big budget AAA video game with great graphics and like all these big stars and all this. They're really polished, but it has really weird, really dark and twisted ideas. You know,
That's because Kojima goes
because
big.
Kojima's
Yeah.
a madman. But it's like, that's what I like about it. Usually these ideas are,
Get stibbied in the boardroom.
yeah, either that or they're exclusively for like indie games who the companies don't have to answer to anyone with the money, you know? Or like indie movies are always more weird and dark than big budget movies because big budget movies don't want to take risks. But Kojima's an insane mad genius, and he's gotten all this time and money to make this huge game that's also about all these weird concepts and kind of dark, twisted, weird things that he's known for. So I'm really excited about.
He's the king. He's the king of weird.
You know what? This is the David Lynch problem. We all said we wanted a Twin Peaks so bad. We didn't. I love David Lynch as much as the next guy, but I don't know. I don't think necessarily that an unleashed David Lynch was necessarily good for the return. You know what I mean?
But
like it's good. I like Kojima.
Yeah.
But what if Kojima goes to Kojima?
What
if the story becomes not unintelligible because it has to be at least there has to be some legibility for it to be a video game. But what if it's too much? You know what I mean?
I think similar to the return of Twin Peaks, I think we'll have similar feelings. It's like the good things about it are insanely good. The weird things about it are insanely weird. But overall, it might not be what we wanted. It might not be the entire thing. Might not be a cohesive.
Yeah.
It might not be great from start to finish. As a whole, it might not work. But all the little parts and all the weird bits and like that'll be great. So like I was saying before, like even if it's bad, even if I don't really like it, like
it's good that it exists.
Yeah, I have to get it and I have to play it and I'm gonna love the shit out of it because it's so weird and different.
And a lot of games these days are the same.
Exactly.
There's a lot of retreading in game mechanics and really story beats.
Yeah. This is new.
This is like it's a tentpole game that is giving us something different.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, what's an example? Like Last of Us 2. I'm really looking forward to Last of Us 2. It's going to be great. I'm super excited.
The Last of Us is one of those games where we talk about, in terms of games, we don't like the open world sort of.
Oh, we'll talk about that
gameplay.
later. But like Last of Us is one of the best games I've ever played, and Last of Us 2, undoubtedly, I'll love it. But you sort of know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, it's not going to offer you any. My assumption is that it's not going to offer us anything we haven't seen before.
That's also a sequel, so there's that sort of, we're already set up.
But The Last of Us 1, apart from the compelling story, it didn't really offer us anything new anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
in terms of video game mechanics.
Yeah, not to the level that Death Stranding is trying to break the mold. Is Kojima being Kojima by saying, Kojima has like rooms of of his team members coming up with weird shit. Like he deliberately has people being like, come up with weird shit that no one's ever done before and we'll try to put it in the game. Most game developers are just like, yeah, we want to make an open world satisfying experience and make money.
It's going to be really interesting to see how cohesive it's going to be as a whole project.
That's the thing.
I mean, there's so much crazy stuff.
Yeah.
How are you going to make it all feel the same?
Yeah, it's very hard to balance the sort of the crazy over the top weird high concept stuff with the kind of satisfying cohesive narrative and gameplay experience. So it might not work 100%, but I think it's going to be great either way because it's going to be like, what is this? This is insane.
Yeah, my prediction is the main parts of the game where you get to actually play the game, move Norman Reedus around and do this, that'll play fine.
Yeah.
But I think that when it comes time to explore the story, I think there might be a couple hiccups there.
If you've ever played any Kojima game, like...
That's what I was going to say. Like, the Metal Gear Solid games are renowned for having really awesome gameplay.
They're extremely convoluted.
The story can be, for lack of a better word, esoteric.
Yeah.
It's something you read about on the internet because you can't understand it yourself.
You have to look up the timeline because you're like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I think is going to be the case with this one.
I think Death Stranding is that times a million.
Yeah, so I think it's going to play really well. Yeah. It's going to be really exciting to play, but it's going to be hard to understand.
But that's also kind of why people like Kojima games, and that's kind of why I'm excited for Death Stranding, because of its cryptic, mysterious nature.
But it's also the start of a franchise. So for now, we have everything we need to know. Yeah, if you look at Metal Gear Solid, the game's canon and lore was stretched out over different consoles. We had video game entries that were just as important as Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, 4. They were on the PlayStation Vita, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, the original PSP even.
And the original PSP. So we had all of the lore stretched out over these different consoles, telling us different information in the timeline. We don't have that with Death Stranding.
That's true.
Which is a good thing.
It's a fresh slate.
It's a fresh slate.
Nathan, remind me about the open world thing, because I cut you off before about that. I want to talk about that. But going on from the kind of lore and stuff, it's like, because Death Stranding is an original game, not based on in another franchise, it doesn't have the same baggage.
That's true.
So originally, after Metal Gear Solid 5, Kojima was going to make Silent Hills.
Yeah.
A sort of sequel / reboot to
and
the
we got
Silent
to see
Hill
the
franchise.
glorious PT.
And that's when PT came out, which is
the demo.
God level of horror video games, even though it was a demo, basically.
Yeah.
Or a playable teaser. Is that what it stands for?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's so good that even though you can't get it anymore, people still sell PlayStation consoles on eBay which have it installed.
I regret not downloading it because my PlayStation will be worth thousands of dollars. But so like Kojima, like I'm devastated that we'll never see Silent Hills. Kojima was, I think, teaming up with Guillermo del Toro,
and Norman Reedus,
co-producing, and Norman Reedus was starring in the game to sort of make this new version of Silent Hill that apparently, from all the deep dives I did when PT came out, it's like would be about, in typical Silent Hill fashion and in typical Kojima fashion, would be about like weird stuff, like weird high concept stuff, like parallel dimensions and time travel and two of the same people, like not clones, but like two people from different timelines or dimensions, all this weird stuff. And then he got fired from Konami or whatever, and they cancelled Silent Hills and took PT off of PlayStation.
What a dick move.
Which, bunch of fucking ass. Fuck Konami. But
you know what, though? I'm sort of glad they cancelled it instead of releasing it as a bad game later on.
Yeah, but this is, I guess, without Kojima. Yeah, I understand. But, like, what my point is, I'm kind of glad that it seems that Kojima has taken not only his creative energy that he was going to use for Silent Hills, but perhaps some of the ideas he was going to use for Silent Hills. Yeah. Along with Del Toro and Norman Reedus, he's taken
the spirit of it.
Yeah, he's taken the spirit and taken those elements over to Death Stranding, and he's going to utilize in that Death Stranding. And Death Stranding doesn't have the baggage of the Silent Hill franchise. Yeah. If Silent Hills came out, even if it was Kojima's true vision, people would be comparing it to the other Silent Hill video games and being like, well, that's not right. That's not how it is.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. It wasn't like that in the old games. People complaining that PT was first person, even though Silent Hill was, third person. So
it's the beauty of the fresh start.
Yeah. So now with Death Stranding, he can utilize all those kind of weird concepts and ideas that he might have had for Silent Hills, but now without any baggage attached for Death Stranding. So that's another reason why I'm super excited, because I was really interested in what they were going to explore with Silent Hills with the parallel dimensions and stuff, and
from what I understand, that there is going to be more than one dimension, for lack of a better word, in Death Stranding.
In Death Stranding,
there's Hades.
Yeah, so I mean, when you die, the game doesn't end. You go to another plane, which seems to be
so it's a metaphor, right? So the game's about it's about linking people, and from what I've read, it's about also people who can't let go of conflict or the past. So when you die, you go into the other realm known as Hades,
which seems to be some sort of like World War I, World War II hellscape.
I'm hoping it's dependent on where and maybe which character kills you.
Yeah, I think that also, there's a bit at the end of the trailer where, like you said, it might explore people, being obsessed, being unable to let go of certain things. And one of the characters says something, I think Norman Reedus' character says something like, we spent so much time trying to, I can't remember what he says, something about war. So it might have something to do with all the world conflicts are kind of concentrated into this weird Hades underworld where you get trapped if you get killed in the game.
The game essentially is, at the moment, it's symbolic of connection. So the sort of, I guess, conflict is the overall, we'll say the overall sort of bad guy of the game, sort of like resolving conflict. And so when you're in Hades, it's the physical manifestation of what the characters are trying to actually defeat. Okay. They're trying to build connections between each other and even real life people in the game. Yeah,
well, and there's also the connections between the quote unquote land of the living and land of the dead. And like Mads Mikkelsen and Troy Baker's characters seem to be able to control or summon powers from that.
From Hades.
From that kind of other plane of existence.
And when you die in Hades, the baby brings you back.
Yeah. There also seem, I don't know if it's just if it's another place as well, but there also seems to be some sort of limbo place where Norman Reedus is trapped in this kind of grey monochrome world. Yeah. I don't know if that's a separate, and even shoots himself in the head, I guess, to get out of it or whatever. There might be a separate place altogether.
The problem is we know so little about the world, even though we've seen so much of it through the teaser trailer, the date trailer, I guess. But it's the Kojima problem. It's going to be so deep. It's going to be so layered that we won't fully know the answers to the questions we're talking about until the game's already out. We'll still be digesting
even then we won't know.
We'll still be digesting all this information like a year after release. We'll still be like, well, what does this mean?
Yeah, but it's just so
lots of chin stroking.
It's so interesting, like that. Like with all Kojima stuff, it's just like exploring all the elements of it, and like
one interesting thing that I thought was, it doesn't seem like Norman Reedus has any lethal weapons.
Oh no, there is combat.
There's I saw combat. He does shoot guns.
Yeah.
There's like a little segment when he's in Hades and he has a
in Hades.
It's like a war section and he's like shooting.
Yeah,
things.
no. So there's in the English language trailer that was released, you at least see him when he opens up the wheel, the items wheel. What do you call it?
HUD UI.
Yeah, it has an assault rifle. On there.
Okay.
And also later when he goes to Hades, he's seen shooting the skeleton soldiers with the assault rifle. In the Japanese trailer, which had a slightly extended footage, you see him shooting a big black goo monster with a pistol.
That's awesome.
And also on the weapons wheel, it says underneath where the ammo counter is, it says change ammo. And so I'm assuming there's different ammo types for different enemies or whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
And there also, you seem to be able to upgrade your weapons as well. So and then there's also the hand-to-hand combat where he's beating up those guys.
Yeah, see
So that's
what I remembered.
There's two branching conversations I want to have now. There's the one about the carrying the stuff, like the postman stuff, and there's the one about the like conflict open world. Actually, no. I guess they'll lead back into each other.
Well, let's start with the postman elements.
So it seems the theme of the game, or the goal of the game, is to reconnect people and reconnect America.
But there's also an online component.
Yeah, exactly.
So that connection sort of thing we're talking about now, it does include some apparent multiplayer connection, which we know nothing about.
But
at this
I
point.
think if I'm not mistaken, Kojima has said that it's not a multiplayer game.
No, but it involves connections with other real life players.
Probably a Dark Souls situation where you'll be able to help other people with the same part of the world as you.
Oh, maybe.
As like Dark Souls isn't a multiplayer game, but you can assist other players. So it might be that type of, you can summon a fake version of yourself into someone else's world, and they can assist in some manner.
I think Norman Reedus or Mads Mikkelsen or some of the other cast and crew said something about there's going to be a social media aspect to it as well. So, you're not only are you physically connecting people in the gameplay, like there might be a larger meta is that meta game
on top of it.
Which is really interesting. And also, remember when PT came out and Kojima was like, no one will ever solve this. It's so cryptic. It'll take years and years. It'll take years for people to finally figure all this stuff out. And within a week, people had figured it out. And it was because of the internet and social media.
Working together. So people all around the planet were like, oh, I've decrypted all this stuff. That little equation on the corner of the photo frame, I figured out what that is, and it means this, and then someone else took that and used that in the game and finished the game. And Kojima was really surprised. And I think that's what Death Stranding is going to do, where, like with the trailers, people are decrypting it and working out the equations that you see written in the background and stuff. Like, it's going to involve some sort of global teamwork. Yeah.
So not only is the character in the game like the postman trying to reconnect post-apocalyptic America, it's also about connecting
people.
Yeah, it's all about connecting people in the real world, in the meta game.
Connecting the PlayStation players.
Sony
connecting everyone as long as they're not an Xbox
player.
Turns out they're the bad guys in the game too.
But yeah, so it's an open.
You know those guys he's fighting with the yellow suits and the backpacks. He just put Microsoft on the.
So this game seems to be open world. We don't know to what extent.
Yeah. So that's like what I was kind of. I think Nathan was getting at before, and like what I wanted to discuss is how. And we were talking before we even started the show about how. Like 10, 15 years ago, open world games were like, whoa, this is the next level of gaming. This has never been seen before. Like, this is changing the game.
Yeah.
And it was so exciting.
And now it's a scourge.
And now every game has to be open world, even if it shouldn't be. It's always we have to be open world. And now it's to the point where so many games are open world that's no longer special. It's no longer breaking the mold.
As someone who doesn't have... I mean, I have a lot of times to play games. I'm not going to lie, I do. But I'm also picky about what games I play because I want to make sure I get the most out of them.
Yeah.
The problem with an open world game is when you can do everything, you end up doing nothing. You spend so much time choosing where you want to go, what you want to do, that you end up just wasting your time.
Yeah, exactly.
So Breath of the Wild, most people consider it the best Zelda game ever made, and they love it. Me, I own it. I like it. It looks nice. I can see why people like it.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like it.
Yeah, as I mentioned to you before, I think it's one of the best games I've ever played. I think it's one of the best games ever made. I love it, but I stopped playing a year or more ago, and I never picked it up again because it's so daunting and there's so much to do.
That's exactly right. And I worry that Death Stranding is going to face a similar problem, but I don't think it will. Because I think that it's not actually going to be as open world as people think.
Well, yeah, like one of the problems with open world games is like there's this huge detailed open world and nothing really to do in it. The story missions are very focused to certain areas or, you have to go to certain places. The side quests are all very the same. All the NPCs look the same. All the fetch quests and... what do you call it? Like resource gathering and crafting. Yeah. It gets very samey and repetitive.
So if we look at this from the perspective of Metal Gear Solid 5, that is very much an open world game, but it's optionally open world.
Yeah.
So all the story missions have you, they drop you into one specific area. You can't leave that specific area without aborting the mission.
Yeah.
And you have to work within the confines of the area. I'm hoping Death Stranding does a similar thing.
I think
because that forces you to play within the confines of an area like that is unlocked as the story goes. Do you know what I mean? Like you'll be in one area in Metal Gear Solid 5. You're in one area, and then you slowly branch out until you've unlocked all the flight paths or whatever you want to call them.
From what I've seen in the Death Stranding trailer and from what people have put together, there definitely seems to be, like I said, like different ammo types and upgrades to the weapons. There seems to be some customization with the character. You can wear different hats and sunglasses and so on. There's also that motorbike that he uses to drive around, and there's also you can see him carrying an extra pair of boots with his cargo. Like, so there's definitely going to be like open world elements, crafting and upgrading, and
it's all about how it's structured.
And I'm on one hand, I'm a little bit disappointed because I'm like, I want this game to be really different, and I don't really want to get bogged down in that typical open world stuff.
I don't think we will.
There also seems to be like a hub, like the Bridges company, like headquarters. Yeah. Like that's where you can upgrade stuff, and that might be the headquarters in Metal Gear Solid 5.
Mother base.
Yeah. So like you said, there might be that similar element where you can go to a place, restock, and then go out.
That's
again.
how I like it. Yeah. Like that kind of.
But I'm just hoping it doesn't fall into the trap of all the other games coming out, open world games, where it just feels very repetitive.
I don't think it will.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Hideo Kojima knows what he's doing.
Yeah, especially when you combine it with the kind of high concept weirdness of the story and the characters and the world. Like I said,
I'm hoping it's
it doesn't work.
Yeah. I'm hoping it's the illusion of an open world.
Yeah.
Because I think that's... I like seeing an open world as much as the next guy. I don't necessarily want to explore an open world. I want to be funneled in a certain direction that the game designer wants me to go.
Yeah, there definitely has to be a goal and a motivation. Yeah. Otherwise, like Breath of the Wild, you start to feel disillusioned and fatigued, and you kind of lose interest. I finally finished Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which I think I talked about early in one of the Tuesday review episodes. one of the reasons it took me a while to finish, one, because I was busy doing other things, but two, because like I felt it hard, like I didn't feel motivated. Like the story wasn't strong enough and the characters weren't strong enough to really motivate me. And because it has this kind of fake open world element to it, and there's all this crafting and resource gathering, and all the NPCs have the same face and the same voice, and it doesn't matter where you go, everything. And I was just kind of like, they should refocus their energy and their resources on making a more structured, linear, narrative-driven game, which is what I'm more interested in now.
The problem with Tomb Raider specifically is, especially with the latest game sort of released, they're competing with Uncharted. Yeah. This is a little bit of a different conversation, but Uncharted is very linear, very story-focused.
Yeah, I guess they're trying to be different, and but I think they would benefit from copying Uncharted.
They would, but then people would say, oh, now they're just doing Uncharted, even though Tomb Raider came first. Anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
But Uncharted is the sort of the glorious beacon of that type of storytelling.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
Naughty Dog, is even Last of Us, which we were talking about.
Yeah, Naughty Dog is they are the zenith of that sort of linear story-based progression
gaming.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they know what they want you to experience. Here it is. They don't think there's crafting and stuff in it, but it's not like
it's linear. It's tight.
You're not wandering around and being like a guy gives you a quest to pick flowers, and you go pick all the flowers, and then come back, and he doesn't give you anything worth the time or the effort. Like. So yeah, I'm hoping Death Stranding, like it definitely seems to have those crafting and other open world elements, but yeah, hopefully it doesn't get too...
You know what? I have faith because this is Kojima's first game under Kojima Productions. It's been in development for a relatively long time for any company other than CD Projekt or Rockstar.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot riding on this in terms of his own reputation. So I would assume that we're going to experience some next level shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we said before, it could be a David Lynch situation, but yeah, definitely like it's going to be, regardless of whether it all comes together, like it's going to be impressive and insanely...
Even if it's not what we want, at least his next... If he gets all this crazy energy out of his system, at least the next game's probably going to be way tamer. You know what I mean? Like it might be a bit more tight.
I think, like I said early on in this episode, it's been in the oven for a while now, considering the benefits he had coming in. There's at least a year shaved off of the development time of starting from scratch.
Yeah.
So if he had to start from scratch, this game would have been being made now for 4.5 years.
Especially considering they're using motion capture. As far as modeling goes, they basically hit the ground running. Norman Reedus would... No, what I mean is like they wouldn't have to develop...
Like they would
have had to port certain like model stuff over, but... They pretty much hit the ground running because Norman Reedus was down from the get-go.
Yeah.
Because Hideo Kojima had conversations with Norman Reedus before they even started making the game.
Yeah.
So Kojima had ideas. Norman Reedus was down. They hit the ground running.
Well, yeah, him and Reedus and Kojima seem to get along really well.
So like they kind of hit the ground running conceptually and probably in terms of development as well.
And if you're a guy like Kojima, he probably has 3 or 4 ideas in his head at any one time.
Oh yeah,
like he didn't need to sit there for 6 months going, what kind of game do I need to make?
Well, like I said, and some of the Silent Hill stuff probably carried along with that as well.
So the only worry we're really having is game mechanics and how they're going to be implemented.
So like, what's with Kojima and ladders? You know, he's got that giant ladder in the Death Stranding, thing, and there's the ladder in is it Metal Gear Solid 3 where you just climb the ladder, and keep climbing.
Yeah. This is a nitpick, but ladders are kind of inappropriate. Like, why not just have like a hook and a rope?
Yeah,
why does he have to?
It's also because you can traverse horizontally and not just vertically.
That's true.
But see, this is another thing: is traversing the environment seems to be a large part of the game,
but
and
still,
delivering cargo.
A ladder's still not practical.
Yeah, but I think that'll be really interesting. Is like. Because there does seem to be the motorbike and possibly more vehicles, so it's like, and it depends how big the map is, and depends on where Norman Reedus' character Sam is going, and what he's delivering. Like, it'll be interesting to see how you traverse the world. Like I said, he's got an extra pair of boots. Maybe your boots wear out over time. Maybe, like Metal Gear Solid, some parts of the game will last a really, really long time.
Or maybe you can chuck your boots like in Stalker to distract.
Yeah. That would be cool.
Like, Stalker chucks he has that cloth he chucks.
Oh, with the
to detect traps in the zone.
Yeah, the traps. Yeah.
That'd be funny.
So yeah, like there's that, and then there's like like the ladder and the rope, and you can rappel down cliffs and stuff. And he seems to be carrying multiple different boxes of things on his back, and it's like there seems to be some sort of importance to him getting that to his destination. Not to mention the
fucking baby.
And and the baby as well, which connects him to the other world or possibly Hades or something else, which is so weird. And I love it so much.
From what I've read, the baby is a use the word again, a bridge.
Yeah.
So like if you die,
they're called bridge babies. Yeah, they're called BBs.
Yeah. So like when he goes to Hades, he finds the bridge and he can go back to the real world.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So, I just remember in the trailer seeing like a toy like a bit, like a.
Oh yeah, and then there's the baby doll.
A Franken baby doll?
Yeah, the toy, which seems to be Mads Mikkelsen's icon thing.
That's his bridge baby.
So weird.
It might be his like corruption of the. It's so weird. I don't know, but yeah, like. That's really cool. I really like that. Like all this, the whole game's about connections and there seems to be strands, literal strands connecting things, and there's like strands, these weird black and white strands coming down from the sky, and it'll be interesting. Demons. Yeah,
Homo demons.
It'll be interesting to see how like traversing the environment, not only with physically, but like how the supernatural obstacles. Not only the strands, but the demons and the black goo and the what was it? The time fall.
Yeah,
it's like rain that like accelerates time, and so if you get caught in it, you can like age and die, or like.
Jeez.
So
I'm wondering if there's a situation where we can chuck the bridge baby into the time. And watch it grow.
Or it becomes another Norman Reedus. See, that's another thing. That's another thing is people are saying that everyone has a bridge baby, and like when you die, you're transferred into that bridge baby, which is why there are some parts of the trailer where you see the world from the bridge baby's eyes, and then you sort of somehow whatever. If probably not grow in real time, but somehow then
Norman Reedus becomes Norman Reedus.
Yeah. So like there's all this like weird like I said different not only different planes of existence and different parallel universes, but also possibly dealing with time travel. There's Lindsay Wagner, one of the actresses who plays one of the characters who plays the president, who's like an older, and she's like
got
sick,
cancer or something.
Yeah, she also plays a younger character named Amelie, but Sam calls the president Bridget. So it's the same actress playing two different ages, possibly. I don't think it's a different character. I think it's the same character at different points in life. But Sam is the same age.
Same age, yeah.
So it seems
her name is Bridget.
Yeah, but he calls her Bridget. But the young version of her is called Emily.
It's interesting.
So I'm assuming that it has something to do with either she got caught in timefall and aged, and that's why she's so sick, or there's some sort of she got caught between the living and the world of the living and the world of the dead, and that. Like with a lot of things in the game, it's about connections.
And she has Bridge in her name.
The main character is named Sam Bridges. The Sam Porter Bridges. A porter is someone who carries packages. The company that runs this kind of organization, whatever, is called Bridges. And her name's Bridget. So it might be a nickname.
Yeah.
Like she might have aged and become almost a different person, and so she's called Bridget. Yeah. Like it's going to be super weird, and I can't wait to see how it plays out, because I'm really interested in all this parallel dimension, time travel-y, wibbly wobbly stuff.
Not to mention the crazy shit we don't even know about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know almost nothing.
I mean, we'll never, like we said, we'll never know, even when the game comes out, we'll never know what any of it's about.
People like us in the studio
are still discussing Metal Gear Solid 2.
It'll have to go onto YouTube.
Yeah, like Mads Mikkelsen he's like, Kojima explained it to me, and I still have no clue. Like, we'll never understand the crazy, like the genius, the mad genius of Kojima. But yeah, I'm really excited for all this like high concept, weird, like. Yeah, and then there's like the black goo that seems to come from Hades, but be like Troy Baker's character seems to be able to summon it into the living world and corrupt things. They're also like his group of terrorists, the Homo demons, they create this thing called void outs where they seem to like blow up entire townships.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And somehow, like, I guess summon the black goo from the other world and like completely destroy. So I guess his goal maybe is to try to turn the world of the living into the world of the dead. Maybe like flip them. Yeah. And your goal obviously is to stop that, but also you can get trapped in the land of the dead and then try to have to get back, which might have comes in with the BBs and how that connects you back to the land of the living. And there's also the C-section scar that a few characters have. Like, so they might have actually give birth to their own BBs.
I'm sure that'll be made clear. It's probably some...
Nothing will be made clear. But I'm just super, like, interested in all these weird concepts and... So, like, this is like cyberpunk at its best and like weird Lynchian
It's only
madness.
cyberpunk at its best because Cyberpunk 2077's not out yet. It won't be out before.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty... would I be correct in saying that the two most anticipated games in this studio with the three of us is Cyberpunk and Death Stranding?
Yeah.
I'm sure there are other games coming out, but
they're the two. They're the two absolute must-haves.
Yeah,
like the only two games that we really care about.
They're the games that, like I said, are breaking the mold, just the way open world games broke the mold 15 years ago. But what's interesting is both Death Stranding and Cyberpunk seem to have open world elements, but they seem to be doing them.
We'll say the right way.
The right way, but also the next level way.
Yeah.
Like they're
Like, have you played the Deus Ex games?
Not the new ones. I played the original.
So closer to the newer ones. It's like Cyberpunk seems to me like the newer Deus Ex games magnified by 100. It's sort of that scale.
Yeah. But it's like because, you know, like I was complaining about like open world games where everything looks the same, all the NPCs look the same, and all the side quests always end up being repetitive and samey.
You know what this reminds me of? The CGI discussion. It's like if you can do everything, you don't have to do any creative problem solving.
Yeah.
So when you can have an open world, you no longer need to make an interesting game to hold people's attention.
Exactly.
You can just let them run around your sandbox.
So that's what I'm hoping. I think we talked about this when the Cyberpunk trailer came out quite a while ago, how like they seem to be doing that open world, but everything in it is different and everything's detailed.
Yeah.
And you're never going to be doing the same thing twice.
I mean, we don't even know for sure how open world it is. Because, I mean, we've seen a trailer.
We've seen some gameplay. It's hub-based. So, like, you can drive to different locations, but you can also catch a train. And, like, I've seen there's a map you can see in one of the gameplay videos.
And this is Death Stranding.
No, this is Cyberpunk I'm talking about. I think you're talking about Cyberpunk.
No, we were talking about Cyberpunk, yeah.
My bad.
And there's a map, and it's absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And there's a demo that's been behind closed doors, and it's quite the play area is really large. And there's a representation on the map of what that is, like in terms of the overall game size.
Yeah.
And it's like one of 50 playable areas.
But one of my problems with open world games is like they have this huge open world area and just either nothing to do in it, or everything to do in it's repetitive and samey, or it lacks so much focus that you kind of stop caring.
Yeah.
So
when you can go anywhere, like what's the point?
I'm hoping that even if Cyberpunk is the most, even if Cyberpunk's the biggest map ever seen in video game history,
it has to have stuff to do.
I'm hoping that everything in it is so dense and detailed and different that you never feel like going somewhere is samey.
Even if just interesting things were happening around you.
Yeah.
Like if let's just say there's not that much stuff going on, but if you're walking around a city and you've got NPCs interacting in interesting ways, and there's a story happening. It
feels alive.
And there's a story happening around you which you're just a spectator in. That's interesting. If you can see people interacting with each other that you're not a part of.
I would be happy for them to make a smaller map and put the extra resources into like making all the NPCs different.
Yeah.
Like making the details of the world different, making the assets, instead of copy and pasting the same asset, making it. Now I know that'll cost a lot of time and money and the hardware.
That's why people make the big bucks.
Yeah.
And look, how long...
I mean, we're almost next gen anyway, so...
And Cyberpunk's been in development for many years at this point.
Yeah, CD Projekt don't fuck around.
No.
They're like, it's done when it's done.
And they have probably the best reputation in the industry. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
As far as Death Stranding goes, Hideo Kojima's a wild card.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're a little bit... We know it's going to be amazing, but we're unsure as to what we're getting.
And that's the other thing is, like, the open world in Cyberpunk is a Cyberpunk city. It's a dense, urban, populated... Whereas the open world or the large maps or whatever in Death Stranding seem to be a
pretty desolate.
Yeah, like either just like what do you call it, mountainous landscape, or
it's sort of
like grass plains, or like they seem to be a few small like townships.
I've heard of it referred to in the context of like Cyberpunk and Deus Ex as open world vertically. In the way that there are layers on top of each other.
Well, that's the other thing. In Cyberpunk, you can go up into buildings, right? Which in most open world games you can't.
No, so that would help. That helps Cyberpunk, and it helps Deus Ex in that you can do more vertically. Like whereas most, you can do more interesting things vertically than you can horizontally.
Like apartment blocks.
Yeah,
but I think
where I don't like open world is when it's more horizontal and it's just plains of nothing.
Yeah. But, like, it'll be interesting to see how that works in Death Stranding, because it seems like taking your cargo to places is a large part of the game, and traversing the mountains and the canyons and the plains and whatever seems to be a large part of the game.
But it might not necessarily be as open world as we think.
Exactly, but it's it's like how are they going to make that fun and interesting, but also, how's it going to, like, how's it going to tie into the story and the, connecting people like they say in the trailer, and how, like, I like there's the bit where he's carrying the stuff and those guys try to get it off him and they hit him on the back and one of his canisters falls off, and then he has to go around and pick it up, and then when the guy, like, then he starts fighting the guys and he punches one of them and the guy falls, and then he, like, takes the guy's backpack off and hits the other guy with it. So you seem to be able to collect pieces of cargo or equipment, and I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of load-bearing system where you can only carry a certain amount of weight, so you have to play a bit of inventory Tetris, which is always fun. But on top of that, how does that tie into what's the important cargo that he's carrying that these guys are trying to steal from him? And also, you see him carrying the corpses on his back. So it seems to be like there's some sort of important delivery that he has to make, why he has to do it on foot, why he has to, I guess it's the connection thing, and these townships are maybe all disconnected. But it also seems like maybe the corpses are tied into the underworld, and that he has to get them to a place, because if they fall into Troy Baker's hands, he can turn them into goo monsters or whatever.
And there's also some sort of dog tag mechanic.
Or Mads Mikkelsen's skeleton squad.
There's also some sort of dog tag collectibles. Like in the interior, you see in Death Stranding, you see, like, briefly, you see like a UI system and a menu, like of dog tags that you've collected.
I didn't see that.
It's only brief,
but
like, so there are certain collectible elements of the game.
See, now I'm a little bit afraid it's going to end up the open world elements are going to start feeling tired and the same as other open world games.
I mean, granted, like,
I'm more interested in the high concept story, weird stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously I want the gameplay to be good.
We'll have to wait till November.
Yeah.
We might see more at E3.
Yeah, that's true.
Next week.
Well, Sony's not going to E3, but that doesn't mean that Kojima Productions...
That doesn't mean we won't see anything.
We'll have to wait till November to find out specifically how the game's going to work.
Look,
I reckon I'll love it either way.
Oh, yeah. Like, did you see the collector's edition with you get a BB?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's ugly, it's disgusting, it's too big, I have nowhere to put it, and I want one.
I sent that message to Alan. I'm like, your next collectible games.
Well, actually, I'm going to call Alan and be like, if you get your hands on one, like, I'm down for that, because they're already all sold out.
Yeah.
So,
but he'll charge you an extra $300.
Oh yeah. I'll go on an installment plan. I'll be like, look, man, we've been friends for a long time. Can I pay you back? But like, I'm just so interested in the design and the weird world, and I just really hope that if it all doesn't come together, I think I'll still really enjoy. And at the end of the day, I'll enjoy going on YouTube and watching theory videos.
Yeah, exactly.
Like with Metal Gear Solid, I like watching the timeline videos that try to make sense of the convoluted.
Yeah, exactly.
Which snake is this? Which clone is this?
It's exactly. But so that's the good thing is, this is just his first game. So even if this game isn't what we want,
his first game as a solo Kojima Productions.
Right. Kojima Productions is going to have... I'm certain they're going to have a second game.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is just the start.
And yeah, like Nathan said, he's always got ideas.
The best Kojima game might be down the road. You know what I mean? Like this might be an interesting game, but 10 years from now, we might be talking about that banger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, like I'm saying, like this is just his first game, so that's like we're putting all this pressure on him.
Yeah.
If it doesn't pan out, it doesn't pan out.
Yeah.
Like there's still another one.
Like Kojima will be back.
Like he's the kind of guy I reckon who'll still be making games at 70.
Because, I hope so, yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think that he's just that kind of guy who has to be putting creative output out into the world.
The Japanese are like that. You look at the old guys in Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they're all old men making classic games.
Miyazaki, who keeps talking about retirement, and he's like, I'm making one more movie. And then he keeps talking about retirement. I'm making one more movie.
Yeah, the Japanese have that work ethic.
Yeah.
No, but I think Kojima, even if he's not like right there in the trenches, I think that he'll still be putting, you know, he might still be a kind of like a creative outlet.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there are stories of.
I hope if he doesn't make because his games have always been cinematic and influenced by Hollywood movies and whatever. Like at some point I'm just like, why doesn't he just make a movie? But
he'll have the connection soon enough to do it.
Could you imagine a Kojima like Netflix series of just his like weird ideas?
Get him to make the Twilight Zone.
Oh man,
yes.
I'm just.
And every protagonist is Norman Reedus.
No, but every protagonist is Norman Reedus, but from a different timeline.
It's all the same character.
It's just like layers.
Yeah. Very complicated.
Oh man, so that would be so cool. I'm so excited for this game. And one of the things, unfortunately, with video game, like when we rebooted the show as Tuesday Review. One of the things we want to do is like talk more about video games and comic books and other stuff, not just TV and movies. But video games is hard to talk about because they take so long to complete.
Yeah.
That you can talk a bit about them while you're playing it, but it's
hard to see the overall picture.
Also, if all three of us got together and watched a movie, we start and end at the same time. If all three of us went off to play a video game, we would all be at different points. So we can never really review it. But with Death Stranding, we'll definitely have to do a sort of update every once in a while. And if we do finish it, if it's a game you can even finish, because
we don't know.
Who knows how it works, especially with
the game might not be finished until humanity is connected in real life.
Thing. Yeah, it might be a meta thing where it's like world peace has to be achieved before you unlock the true ending.
Yeah,
which I'm not opposed to, even though I want it. But yeah, like it's hard for us to talk about games a lot. That's why, like I mentioned Shadow of the Tomb Raider and then just never talked about it again.
Talked about Metro briefly.
Yeah, because it didn't really have time to talk about it, but hopefully, in the future we'll sort out some of the problems with the show and hopefully talk more about it then. And Cyberpunk we'll obviously have to talk about.
Oh man, hours and hours are going to be spent talking about Cyberpunk 2077 because it's another game that almost blurs the line between movie and game.
Yeah,
especially when you've got. I mean, Cyberpunk started out in like early video games and literature, but it's so cinematic. So I think that especially with like things like Death Stranding and Cyberpunk,
Cyberpunk's also like more immersive. Like you can pick your character and then fully customize, and then first person, so you're immersed in that world. Whereas Death Stranding's like third person, like played by all these famous actors. Like it's even more of a movie. Both of them have cinematic elements, but Death Stranding's like the Kojima movie.
Yeah.
And Cyberpunk's like you're in Cyberpunk, the world.
Yeah. It's more of an experience than a game. If that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, really looking forward to those. Oh man.
Yeah, I reckon we're just about time.
I'm excited.
I think we're all about out of time today.
Yeah.
Roll along November.
We're all a bit tired today, but I think we did all right.
Yeah, I think everyone's just very excited for Death Stranding.
Yeah, I'm so hyped.
Thank you for listening. Please like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page and follow us on Twitter at Tuesday Review AU. You can follow James on Instagram where he shares all of his films at Channel Drifter.
Yeah, if you're... we don't have any new listeners, but if you are a new listener, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Channel Drifter because I post every time I watch a movie. I'm not saying that because I really want you to follow me. I'm saying it because you get to see what movies I've been watching that I don't get to talk about on the show. Because we have such limited time to talk about stuff, I've watched so many movies.
What we need is a website one day where we can just post review blogs.
Blog, a vlog.
You can also find all of our previous episodes on your favorite podcasting app. If you like video games, you can check out Alan Jake Show's Sunrise Arcade and Maddie J with Car Talk. All their podcasts are available wherever you get your podcasts from. Mm-hmm. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe our show, The Tuesday Review, on iTunes. Adios, cousins.